The reason that the body positive movement failed is because people did not transition to fat liberation.
No, it failed because it was based on denial and lies. People eventually realized that telling yourself you're healthy at every size while your doctor is warning you about heart disease doesn't hold up in reality. What you're describing as the next step, fat liberation, is nothing more than radicalizing the same failed idea. You're basically saying, don't just love your obesity, force society to love it too.
Body positivity is about learning to love yourself, you, and like your self-confidence, right? Fat liberation, on the other hand, is about like fat people as a whole and people in general unpacking the fatphobic societal beliefs that we are all instilled with.
But people aren't brainwashed into thinking obesity is unattractive. We are hardwired to notice that it's a sign of poor health. Calling this fat phobia is just a way to shame people for recognizing reality.
By unpacking those beliefs and kind of taking away the like negative association with fatness, that is what is going to make you consistently not only feel good in your body, but it also changes the way that you view the world. Like fat people in general, other people's bodies in general, like that is kind of, in my opinion, what the end goal was. Because personally, yeah, I love myself, but that isn't always going to be the easiest thing for everyone to do. And it's like, if you're, let's say, a fat person, right? And you're like, I love myself even though I'm fat, right? It's like, or you change your mindset and you ask yourself, why is fatness seen as something negative to begin with? And
you claim that once you rewire your brain to stop seeing fatness as negative, you'll magically feel better about yourself. No, you don't get to opt out of biology. High body fat is linked to insulin resistance, hypertension, sleep apnea, cognitive decline, and so on. The whole "why is fatness seen as negative to begin with" question shows how detached you are from reality. It's seen as negative because it kills people. According to the CDC, obesity contributes to over 300,000 deaths annually in the US. That's not a stereotype. But instead of encouraging people to address the problem, you're encouraging them to normalize it. Imagine telling smokers that lung cancer stigma is just nicotine phobia. But when it comes to fat acceptance, suddenly it's so different.
And once you start unpacking that belief, you kind of start like pulling at the thread of like what you were taught to think in an inherently fatphobic society. And once you do that and unpack your biases against fatness, you start to see the flaws in the way that this entire society talks about bodies, talks about attractiveness, talks about worth, and how much worth is tied into what you look like.
You talk about society needing to change the way it views bodies. Translation, you want to bully the rest of us into pretending obesity is attractive. People are allowed to have preferences. Attraction isn't a democracy where you get to vote obesity into being desirable.
And the problem is a lot of these content creators that we're seeing kind of backpedaling, they never made that leap, right? It was just about themselves, and it was just about gaining an audience and like using that as a way to kind of perpetuate their brand further. It was never about the collective. It was never about changing the way that they actually viewed bodies and aesthetics and fatness and like just the society that we live in. So that is why the body positive movement failed. Body positivity is about the self, fat liberation is about the collective. The way in which body positivity was co-opted was never sustainable. Anyways.
It's funny you accuse creators of being selfish for focusing on their own journey, while your version demands the entire world reshape their standards for your comfort. Basically, you complain about body-positive creators losing weight. Do you hear how insane that sounds? Someone improves their health, and your reaction is that they betrayed the movement? No, they outgrew the movement.
Anyways. It is very clear when people like get to a point in body positivity that is like beneficial for them, but they don't do the extra work. So those biases that they had against fatness and fat people and like whatever, they're still there and they're still prevalent. So now that's why we see this trend of like body positive creators losing weight and becoming fat phobic. That's the problem. You can lose weight, that's fine, but these people are 180ing from like a body positive platform to like an anti-fat lose weight platform, and that is the problem, because it just shows that they never cared about community, and that is what upsets people, because it was a clearly selfish motivation.
So when the creators lose weight, it proves they never cared about community. Or maybe it proves they cared about living longer than 50. The community you're defending is one that thrives on denial and punishes progress. Maybe your ideology was the problem. This is the most toxic part of your entire philosophy. The sheer hostility you hold for those who choose weight loss. You reveal your true colors here. This was never about choice. This is cult behavior.
And this isn't to say that if you're just body positive, like, you're a bad person or you're selfish, no. But I do personally believe that body positivity should be the stepping stone to fat liberation. Because once you change the way that you view the world as a whole, and you think people's values should lay outside of their bodies, and they should just be able to exist however they are, in whatever state they are, that I think is when we will achieve true freedom.
But your freedom doesn't mean freedom from consequences. True freedom is having the mobility to play with your kids without getting winded. True freedom is not being a slave to insulin injections or blood pressure medication in your 40s. True freedom is looking at a staircase and not seeing an obstacle.
You should be more popular, articulated so well.
I get it, it's like breaking down the system, the ideas versus like working on yourself individually. I think this idea applies to all tiers of oppression too.
The reason it failed is because we made it about the feeling of loving how your body looks, which is always going to be easier for smaller people in a world that values thinness.
Fat phobia hurts all of us. Fat liberation frees us all.
So let's summarize what she was really trying to argue here. According to her, body positivity is about you, learning to love yourself, being confident, feeling good in your own skin. Fat liberation, on the other hand, is supposed to be about society, changing everyone else's standards, dismantling what she calls fat phobia, and forcing the world to treat obesity as normal, even desirable. In her mind, body positivity failed because it was too individualistic. It didn't go far enough. It wasn't radical enough. But both ideas are broken. Body positivity on its own sounds harmless. Who doesn't want people to feel better about themselves? But in practice, it became a shield for ignoring health consequences. According to her definition, fat liberation is even worse because it takes that denial and projects it outward. You're no longer just lying to yourself. You're demanding the entire world lie with you. So whether you call it body positivity, fat liberation, or fat acceptance, it's the same poison in different bottles. One tells you to ignore reality, one tells you to force others to ignore reality, and one tells you to celebrate reality being worse.